Hi guys, today we're going to be comparing two different DPM pieces from the British Army. On your left we have a 68 pattern field smock, and on the right we have an 84 pattern smock. Now on the surface they do look very similar. They share a lot of the similarities, similar cut and other things like that. But before we dive into the comparison, I just want to get into a little bit of background. The DPM pattern is widely used around the world now, many different color variations. A lot of them are in the Middle East, so a lot of different countries still use this pattern. Great Britain itself, the British Army has switched to MTP, which is basically DPM but in the multicam color scheme. But there's still a lot of countries who use this pattern. So it really dates back to 1966, I believe, when they added the DPM pattern to the P60 jacket, which was olive green, but they added that pattern to it. 1968 they came out with a different version, which is this one on the left. This one has 4 different variations in terms of camouflage pattern. 2 of them are the original DPM from the P60 jacket, and then 2 of them are newer with this, and then the P85 uniform, which actually came out in 1984, or the P84 uniform, sorry, which actually came out in 1985, also has a number of variations. So it can be very hard to differentiate these jackets if you're just looking at the pattern itself. What you really want to look for is the features, and we're going to get into that for sure. So on the surface, what we see is that they're both, look like standard smocks. Nothing really seems to be too different on the surface. And if you're scrolling through eBay listings, you could really not tell unless you look for a few key factors. One of these factors, you're going to see this older style zipper. Now this zipper is quite old, as you can clearly tell, and it is it a YKK? No, it's CLIX, so I haven't seen that brand before. But basically this zipper is a lot thicker, as you can clearly see, and the material is different as well. And you'll definitely be able to feel that if you go to a place in person and you find one. Both of them are supposed to have tags. This one still has the tag, which shows you the size, the chest, and the height, the laundering information, and the basic information about the smock itself. There isn't really a date. There's only a NATO stock number. So that's why I said you can't really rely on tags and stuff like that. Now this one over here, the 68 pattern one, is missing its tag. It is unfortunately no longer present, but you could see, it was here at a time, this little square, but it's gone now. But, we can still tell that this is a 68 pattern because of the pockets. Now, on the later version, the P84 smock, the pockets are bellowed. And on this earlier version, they aren't bellowed, so there's less space to store material, as you can clearly see right here. Now in the Falklands in 1982, they learned their lesson. They needed more storage space, so they bellowed the pockets. Although it caused some issues because these pockets can easily get hung up on stuff. So look how much more space this has compared to this one right here. This one doesn't really have much space. This one has ample space. You can definitely hold a lot more stuff in here, but you can see how it could easily get snagged just because of how loose it is. So that's another difference that you can tell in person, but online you can't really tell. Now this one I think is going to be the easiest, which is the wrists. So how are the wrists used on the P68? They have a button, pretty standard for the time. So we got a single button here, button them up and button them close. Okay, pretty cool. Move over to this one right here, and we got a newer technology. We got Velcro, fancy, very fancy. So that's a pretty clear and obvious difference, which you can clearly tell in just by looking at photos. You can honestly tell. And like I said, the material difference as well. This one's a little bit thinner. It's cotton material. I forget what exactly this is made out of, but it is mentioned in various articles online. We do have some buttons in addition to the zipper, so you can really button this up to make it, colder. So that's another feature we have on this jacket, and we have the buttons on the other one as well. Now I'm not going to get too specifically in detail because I'm going to have a video on each of these jackets respectively, but I did want to throw a quick comparison out there just so people could see. You know, both of them do have a drawstring in the middle for the waist. You can see that right there. So what else other than this? Well, there's another feature. See, on the back by the collar, we have a detachable hood. So here's our hood. We have buttons for it. So what you can see here, got our hood right here. And yeah, got holes, got buttons on the back. So I don't know, this one doesn't really seem to be properly buttoned in because they're using one of the buttons from the shoulder epaulets to be buttoned, and that doesn't really quite look right to me. It looks like also someone modified this hood by adding their own holes for buttons. But there is one thing, a button in the back, and you can tell this goes with the uniform because it is the same, you know, shade and pattern. And yeah, definitely what you notice is that the brownish red in the DPM doesn't really come out as dark because of the material on this uniform, whereas on this one it comes out a lot darker. But what I would say is don't rely on that very much because it could be, you know, deceiving. Like I said, there are different variations of DPM found on this uniform. You really want to look at the cut of the uniform itself, you know, comparing the pockets, are they bellowed? And another thing, I almost forgot. So you'll see on both of these uniforms on the left shoulder, there's a pocket here. Okay, well this pocket's the same, right? Same as this one. We got like a little pen pocket. But you'll notice that there's an extra pocket right here. So this pocket on the pattern 68 uniform was actually found on the trousers, and it wasn't added onto the shoulder until later. So this right shoulder does not have that pocket, unlike this shoulder. So that's another major difference that we have. And I'd say that's a pretty easy one to spot as well if you were looking for it. But yeah, let's just take a look at the pattern. Like I said, the pattern is a little bit different in terms of color. But like I said, don't rely on that. But I don't think you really see this type of lighter color greens on the newer uniforms because of the material that they used. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And honestly, yeah, you could probably tell from the tag as well. But a little bit about the, you know, how much are these sought after? Well, they're sought after a lot by those people who want to reenact, you know, the Falklands, which is probably not too many, but I'm sure there's a dedicated community who would want to do that. And, you know, the production numbers of these aren't super high. It's not the U.S. military. So, you know, there's not too many of these floating around in the U.S. Probably find a lot more in the U.K., obviously. But even there, I'm sure they'd still fetch, you know, a higher price than, let's say, a 95 pattern or one of the newer DPMs. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. If you do see one of these, they do, you know, go for like, I don't know, maybe like $60 in the US. Although most I've seen online are from, you know, UK sellers. But I hope you guys enjoyed this brief video just comparing and contrasting. I'll just flip them over one time so you can get a better idea of how the uniforms look on the back. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be taking a look at each of these uniforms individually, you know, comparing and contrasting. Yeah, can't really show like exactly, you know, what's specific in a uniform, but you can definitely notice in the black, you know, swirls of the DPM, they're a little bit thicker here, they're a little bit thinner here. Overall, I feel like the blotches here are a little bit thicker and blotchier, and here it's more separate. The colors are more separate. The blotches are a little bit thinner, so definitely see a little bit of difference there. But as I was mentioning earlier in the video, yeah, a lot of countries use DPM or DPM variations. Oman has an orange version. Iraq uses blue DPM. There's a lot of countries that use blue DPM. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.